What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with the next installment on the conservation of this Startling Comics number 48 from our new friend Noah. So, as you recall, we did an assessment of the book. We did some dry cleaning, which frankly didn't actually pull that much out of the book. And then we went on to wet cleaning with deacidification and some very gentle bleaching. Combined with photo bleaching. So I'm happy to say I'm thrilled with the outcome. We were able to accomplish really all of our reasonable goals, and this area here in particular, so you may recall there was mold all over the book. We also had this very friable paper along the top, both sides here. In my zeal to get moving on this book, I actually failed to take really great before pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some stills from the video that I shot. And they won't be quite as high quality as I would normally like for my before pictures, but it is what it is. I do that, I guess, surprisingly often, because when I see a book that I need to work on and want to improve, I just get excited and I just start working on it without always capturing high quality before pictures. But I do have images that, again, we can screen grab from the video. And we know that this was very dark up here with mold. We had mold all through here. We had mold all along here. And we had mold along here. That's just in here. That's just on the exterior. On the Versa, we also had a lot of mold. So we'll look at that in a moment. But as you can see, this is white and bright now in here. The treatments that I did do not deal with this rust migration in the paper, but we have deactivated it. So we've stabilized the paper and we've deacidified it. So while this is somewhat unsightly, it's not creating a future harm to the paper. The friable, so the other thing that I've done is, once I was finished cleaning, deacidifying, and stabilizing the paper, I put it in my press. So this has just been cold pressed in my massive Seal Masterpiece 350. One of the nice things about having a tool like that is the working surface area is larger than this mat. So I can put like a concert poster in there, for example, flat. So when I get these Golden Age books and I want to press them flat, it's not a problem. So it's pressed nicely. We've preserved all of this paper, which was one of our main goals. We dramatically knocked down the mold. Now, did we 100% knock it down? No. There's a little bit in here, but it's really not very detracting anymore. There's also a little bit in this friable area. Okay, we preserved this little date code that had been penciled in. What have the trade-offs been? Well, we do have some slight loss of the intensity of the red here in the Startling comics, but we preserved all the really great color down here very well, including our good girl, which was really the visual focus of the book. And this is why, as a trade-off, I left a little bit of mold in these areas, because to knock this down to the same level of the white that I got here would have cost me a lot of intensity in our star here, and I didn't think that was a good trade-off. The Versa, as I mentioned, is actually maybe even more impressive. So this side, we only have these black inks, which are much more stable than the colored inks on the front. And so I was able to really go at the mold from this side. This was all molded, all mold. We had mold here and here. And we had mold throughout the image here. We had mold all down this spine. And we've essentially removed it all. This staining that is left behind, these are the chromophores that are left behind with the little tiny roots that the mold puts down into the paper. We can bleach them, but you never completely remove them. And so we've knocked them down to the point where they're barely noticeable. And we got this great white paper, and we barely affected the inks. Are these blacks slightly faded from where they started? I think that's fair to say they're slightly faded from where we started, but the trade-off is really very well worth it. I couldn't be happier with the outcome. So I think we accomplished all of our reasonable goals that we set out to accomplish with the cleaning, deacidification, and bleaching. And we've accomplished the main problem with the book, which was the mold has been effectively removed. What's the next step? There was a loose tag of paper here. The book came to us that way. I've pressed it down in place so it's barely noticeable, but this is a cover split that goes more than a 1/4 inch right here. And this tag is actually loose, okay? There was actually, this corner also was folded down, but I flattened it and pressed it, and I think it's stable enough to leave. This, however, I'm not really comfortable leaving because we're gonna have to obviously refold this book around the interior. And when we do that, this tag is gonna stick out, it's not gonna behave well, and it's just gonna be a weak point where the spine will continue to rip. And so we don't want that spine split increasing any, especially because, as I mentioned, this is very friable paper up here. It's thin, and we got it to behave reasonably well, but it's still not strong paper, frankly, okay? So what we're gonna do, and I've talked to Noah about it, we're just gonna do a little repair here with Japanese paper and wheat paste. So this is gonna be a conservation repair that will net you a blue label with gray bar for conservation at CGC. Should Noah ever decide to sub this, it's not in his immediate plans, but that's the correct thing to do for the book, and that's what we decided to do. So I'm gonna set up my materials to do that, and we'll show you that repair, and we'll be right back.